So, as most of you all probably know by now, Bernie Sanders went on The View. He talked about an array of things, but he made some comments about Tulsi Gabbard after being asked by Meghan McCain. So, Bernie's comments, well, I'm not mad. I'm not satisfied, but I'm not mad. But don't confuse not being mad for not understanding why this is problematic in the long term. But I will let you determine whether or not you consider his comments a defense or not.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is saying she's been excluded from the DNC stage, and she actually resigned, as you know, as vice chair of the DNC last time because of your treatment. Number one, do you think that she was right? Again, I just don't know if getting rid of superdelegates is enough. And do you think it's your turn to stand up for her to be on the debate stage now?
Let me just say this. I would go further. I would ban superdelegates from voting on any ballot. We could not achieve that. We got them off the first ballot, which was a step forward. Tulsi is a good friend of mine. Where the DNC right now had a difficult problem. How do you deal with 20 candidates who are running? Do you have 20 people up on the stage together? Does that make a sensible debate? I think not. So they came up with their approach. I am not a great fan, I should tell you, Megan, as to how we do debates in general. Right. My own feeling would be, rather than giving people 45 seconds to talk about what we do with the crisis of high cost of prescription drugs, we focus on healthcare, we focus on climate change, do it issue by issue, rather than trying to deal with 50 different issues in a short period of time.
Okay, so first, I think that this is where we thank Meghan McCain for asking a legitimate question. Rather than, I mean, I'm sure she did act the fool later on in that segment, but rather than Whoopi Goldberg, who literally embarrassed herself, Meghan brought up a factual point about what Tulsi has done, which is surprising because usually that point is rarely brought up, if ever, on that show because they're always attacking her generally. And lately, it actually has had to be Meghan to stick up for Tulsi. Once again, thank you. But the question was a legitimate one, in my humble opinion. I don't think she was trying to be divisive. I think that she was trying to get Bernie to acknowledge the rigged process and say something, anything. Now, he said that Tulsi was a good friend. I know a lot of people might think that that's like this extravagant thing, but unfortunately, I've been paying close enough attention to Bernie to know he calls Warren a good friend. He calls Booker a friend. He calls Joe Biden a friend. In the segment with Whoopi Goldberg, he said, when him and Whoopi were going back and forth, he said he loves Nancy Pelosi. It's just, I'm fully aware at this point that when he says friend, he really means colleague. Not that he and Tulsi aren't good friends, but that's not like an exclusionary association or an exclusive association when it comes to Bernie. Yeah, they're good friends. But like he always says that and uses it more as like a qualifier before he either deflects or says something that somebody might not agree with, if we're being completely and totally honest. So that wasn't a big deal to me. Him saying, oh, that's a good friend. That's a material fact. It is. They are actually good friends, but that's just a material fact. But then right after that, he actually unfortunately goes on to almost apologize for the DNC, unless I'm hearing that wrong, right? He says, oh, well, can you imagine what they're going through? It must be hard for them. 20 candidates. How do you decide? Hold up. What do you mean? Bernie, the DNC has 20 candidates on the debate stage by design, and it's mostly because of you that they have 20 candidates on the debate stage. They're in the position that they're in by, not even by choice, but by popular demand of the establishment. They chose this method to run their primary to try and stack the deck against you. You don't need to apologize for them. And if it takes 10 candidates per night to get exposure, then that's what it takes. The Republican Party did it in the 2016 elections. Now, granted, they split theirs up into tiers, but I'm not even mad at having a top tier debate and a lower tier debate so that you can get one major standout from that bottom tier. But in the case like this isn't even just about top tier versus bottom. This is somebody who has 170,000 individual donations, who was actually averaging above 3%, 4% in all the polls combined. It's just that the DNC, those polls, for whatever reason, never place her, except for the 2 instances that it happened, but they never place her above 2% or above 1%. They use arbitrary polling methods, and their margin of error is absolutely horrendous. 5.6, 5.7, almost 6% sometimes. So don't make excuses for the DNC. They chose this way on purpose so that we can have so we can have this conversation. Oh, it's just so hard. You have to keep somebody off the debate stage. So that was a little bit problematic to me. Then he goes on to talk about how he doesn't like generally how debates are conducted, and he would have taken his superdelegates away completely. That's all well and good, and I agree. I agree with him. We should have issue-based debates. I agree 100%. But if we're being honest, that wasn't a defense of Tulsi. Like I said, I'm not mad about it, but it's not satisfactory. I'm not happy with what he said. Acknowledging that they're friends doesn't... What does that mean? Here's why this is problematic in the long run, in the grand scheme. Some people are going to pretend like it's not, but this is me being a realist from a strategic perspective, because I do that. I know people forget I am a political strategist, and people have employed me to do so before. But in all seriousness, when you're trying to get new voters, unique voters, bringing new voters into the democratic process, you have to get them excited. They have to feel like they can trust you. They have to basically feel like they don't have to question your integrity or your conviction. They're going to want to see that you're loyal to the people around you, because they will associate that with how loyal you will be to them or your base, right? So how does it look, not just for the people you want to bring into the process, that you need, by the way, to win those 37 open or semi-open primary races? How does it look when you have all the political leverage in the world right now? You have all the political capital. You have the fundraising, the polling, the on the ground grassroots, the popularity, the Cardi B's even Juicy J gave him a funny shout out the other day. You have all of this stuff on yours. There is a damn Netflix. Marlon Wayans had a Netflix special that just came out, or a movie that just came out. Like it's like, I think it's called Sextuplets or something like that. And like they were joking. It was like he's like, I'm a Bernie bro. Like he's on Netflix. People are like, he's that popular. He's a rock star at this point. So you have all the political leverage. So how does it look when your friend who sacrificed your career, her career, to defend you against a rigged process, you can't defend your friend? You won't call out the rigged process. In fact, the people who created that rigged process, like I said, somebody can correct me if they heard differently, but he defended the DNC. You defended the people that rigged the process. And you're supposed to be running for president, which is a position when you're talking about domestic issues. The president doesn't have all that much power when it comes to domestic issues. The bully pulpit is basically how you get things done, very similar to how FDR got a lot of things done. But the problem is, you have a bully pulpit right now, and you're allowing a rigged process to take place. This isn't even about Tulsi as much as it is people do know that y'all are friends. People do know on the left and on the right that the process is rigged. And you all you had to do, Meghan McCain actually threw him a softball question. And all he had to do was knock it out the park, and he would have swept in. But like, wow, that man has a lot of integrity. Look at him speaking up for his friend. Look at him acknowledging his experience with the rig process, and then talking about the fact that it hasn't changed as much as they haven't learned their lesson. The DNC had. Look at him putting pressure on those elites, those Democratic elites, trying to control the outcome of our election and who cannot get their message out. That's what would have happened. But instead, now people have to look at you like, okay, wow, he wrote a letter to Center for American Progress to defend Elizabeth Warren. He wrote a letter for American Progress to defend Cory Booker. And he even said in that letter, if y'all keep this up, I might have to do something about it. Okay? So if you can do that for those two, you've, one, acknowledged that you do know how to use political leverage. Two, you've demonstrated that you are willing to use that political leverage, just not to call out this process and not to call out or not to defend your friend. And so now people are starting to see a pattern of behavior, and that's when it becomes dangerous to your candidacy. Because I even if I don't do this video, people are still talking about it everywhere. People have been in my comments talking about it. People have been on Twitter talking about it. People have been on Facebook talking about it. Your supporters have been talking about it. People keep talking about the long game. Nah, bruh. Okay, so I'm explaining to y'all why this is a bad look, because you still need those independent voters. You still need people. So you endorse Hillary, who was a miserable candidate. People forgave you, and people. I understood it. I didn't like it, but I understood it. You campaigned for her. People forgave you. But also, you were wrong on Venezuela. You were wrong on Syria. You still push McCarthyism, neo-McCarthyism with this Russiagate nonsense. You still, you still talk about like phasing out Maduro, phasing out Assad, which is code for regime change war, by the way. Not to mention, you have people like Ro Khanna, right? You have people on your campaign celebrating Rachel Maddow's and Elizabeth Warren's. I mean, there's an extensive list at this point. You won't call out a stick up for Assange. You haven't stuck up for Chelsea Manning. And as a matter of fact, on one debate, you actually said that Chelsea Manning broke the law, and even though we should appreciate what she did for the country, she still should be penalized for it. So like now people are starting to see a pattern of behavior that looks more like political calculation. That is not a good look. You lose your mandate at that point. You lose your bully pulpit, because people, like, even now you're fighting for corrupt election justice legislation right now. And it's going to come out that legislation is corrupt. And you attacking Mitch McConnell over a corrupt piece of legislation, once again, looks like political posturing. The reason people fell in love with Bernie was because of the outsider appeal. And it's losing. The more he does things like this, the more he will lose his luster, even amongst some of his most loyal supporters. A lot of Yang supporters, former Bernie supporters. A lot of Marianne Williamson supporters, former Bernie supporters. A lot of Tulsi supporters, former Bernie supporters. And if all of those camps are getting larger and larger, some of them are bringing in new people, but they're taking a little bit, at least, from the main quote-unquote popular progressive in the race. If we're going to win not just the White House in 2020, but the legislature, being able to apply pressure at the court level, because if we have a progressive president, they'll be able to appoint federal judges, U.S. attorneys. It changes the game. The way we do that is by maintaining our integrity throughout the process. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. People get things wrong all the time. That's not what we're saying. But when you have a softball question like that, And instead of just acknowledging the rigged process, you capitulate. You apologize for the DNC. It sends the wrong message. It's like, wow, he won't even defend his friend against the rigged process? What's he going to do when he gets in office? He doesn't even know me like that. Right? People start to question, well, how much is he going to fight for me? How much of this is an act? How much of this is we're not talking about Bernie 10, 15 years ago. The work that he did 10, 15, if that was Bernie 10, 15 years ago, well, I'll put it like this. We wouldn't be having this discussion, because I know Bernie 10 or 15 years ago would have absolutely called this rigged process out. But now this is a new Bernie, in essence, that a lot of people are seeing. And like I said, you play politics enough, you start to lose your outsider, anti-establishment, progressive luster. A lot of people will come to his defense, and he has to play politics. Why should he come to the defense of Tulsi? Because it's not about Tulsi. If we don't apply pressure by calling out the DNC now for a rigged process, by July, it will be too late. Have we not seen how that literally Bernie won at the convention, but it was too late. It was too late. We didn't call out the rigged process early enough. Now we have an opportunity, a golden opportunity. And instead we're apologizing for the DNC, apologizing for the 10 people or the 20 or 30 people they put in there on purpose. Come on. This is just bad strategy at the end of the day. And when people start to see that pattern, it's going to be problematic. Nobody go around talking about Bernie's canceled. Like, that's silly. It's silly to cancel him over this. Some people say he's playing the long game. You're right. He is trying to play the long game. But he's playing like Peyton Manning in the in the playoffs, and not like Tom Brady. Tom Brady plays a long game by managing the clock. Whereas Peyton just throws Hail Marys after Hail Marys, and then when he gets under that pressure, he folds. You don't always have to throw Hail Marys. Sometimes you just got to run the clock down. And right now, that's what the primary is about. Run the clock down. Manage the clock. Manage and preserve your image, your integrity throughout the primary. And the primary for Bernie could win itself. But when you're trying too hard, and then when you finally it's crunch time, because that's what that is, right? Bernie, this is your opportunity. You're on national television. Call out the process, and it will spark a conversation like we haven't been able to have at large this entire election, as far as in the mainstream. And he didn't take it. That's how people are going to see it. It's not even about Tulsi. They're going to see it as you had an opportunity and you missed it on purpose. That's how people want to see it. So we'd love to know what your thoughts are about this. Like, share the video. We are upgrading the studio. Most of you already know this. Want to get a new computer, new microphones, wireless microphones, camera, all that good stuff. We want to take the show on the road. Better lighting and all that good stuff as well. But we want to go cover campaign rallies, political events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we actually have already raised $2,000 in 48 hours, which is absolutely amazing. Not going to lie to you. Could not believe it when I saw it. I'm really appreciative of everything that you all have contributed. Some of you all can only contribute by sharing. Don't worry. I appreciate that too. Some of you are patrons. Appreciate that as well. Some of you only donated through PayPal. Appreciate that as well. Literally, I'm just kind of floored by how much support we get from the community, us, the Convo Couch. Remember, you all were the reason that we were able to go to the California convention, and we broke all that news from there, just from you all trusting us to do our job The same job we've always done, and investing in us to get to California, or get me to California, get us to the convention. And look at what happened. We were able to break news about Kamala. We told y'all that Kamala was falling in the polls. We were the first one to report that, and it's been a consistent drop ever since. We said that. Look at the polls in California. It's consistently dropped ever since. So this is the stuff that I want to cover, but every once a month, be able to get out, go to the ground, and you are making that happen literally as we speak, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you for helping us stay independent, and I really hope that you all consider contributing to our GoFundMe. The link will be in the description, and it'll also be in the comment section. Other than that, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.